Good hello, it's time for another animation adventure. Slightly different to the last one, which is the last week or so. There had been many on the rebranding stuff because Oniskins just sort of had the same look for a long time. I'm still fond of the old one, but it's going into its 5th year now. I think it's time for something a little bit different. I've finished overcoming all the problems with this bloody hexagon revealing honeycomb thingy, and then came the time for, actual logo and text. What the heck was that going to look like? I didn't record every version. There were quite a few, and they weren't great, so I'm sort of sparing you the suffering of it all, and I've skipped right to the end. I'll give you a little tour of what I experimented with and thought was lousy, because I'm wanting to stick with this hexagon thing. I like that they're interlocking and stuff. It's cool. This was one that, this is how I first envisioned it in my head, and it sort of came together the way I pictured it, where it would have the shape and then it goes shing, slide out to the side, and have the logo in there. Where is it gone? Onion text. Is it just back at the start? Yeah, something like that. So I like the idea of it sliding out and being interlocking, and also sort of inverting the colors. The orange had been the words up until now. I thought, ooh, what if they become the dark bits? But as soon as I saw it, it just looked like a big stop sign. It sucked. So back to the drawing board, moving other bits around and procrastinating a bit because I just wasn't really feeling it. I was like, uh-oh, how much time have I spent when I could probably just go back to the original? This felt a step closer, but something about the shapes just wasn't reading right. The hand-drawn text and the super clean shapes just weren't really reading. Also, that's how it sort of started. So I thought, okay, well, what if I tilt the hexagon on its side, stretch it out, have a bit of glowing around the edges, and that still felt like a badge. It was almost like sporty in a way. I don't know, you probably don't agree. But interestingly, it did start to grow on me a little bit. Like, whenever I came back to my computer and looked at it again, I was like, oh, it's not so bad. But that first impression, or as soon as it came together and I saw it rendered for the first time, I was like, oh, and that's a problem, because everyone else needs to have a first impression. And how's that going to go? Like, every time you see the interface of a website completely redone, even if it's fine, you're like, oh, it's different, change is bad. Trimming off the edges made it a little bit nicer, I suppose. But I still really wanted to have some sort of sliding mechanism to reveal it. Finally came the third iteration, which is all of this. So it grew very organically, and maybe I'm having second thoughts that I should have recorded the whole journey, because watching all of these components sort of bolt together over a period of several hours could have been something. So let's just try and take it back to the start, and we'll grow out through all the components and we'll see how it all works. So it starts off with display 6, not display 4. There we go. Standard hexagon again. This time it's at the correct vertical orientation, which is what I want. I thought, hang on, what if the edges, its brackets, sort of split and they slid out to the sides? Like, I'm going to be taking a bit of a gamble to be able to select all the right parts here. Okay, so I took the two halves and I split them in half by going for their vertices. So this isn't done using any trickery. I just picked up the actual vector art like this, and trimmed away 2 of the edges until like that sort of thing. So then it was perfectly in half. Next was trimming it with that's a bit of a mask. Ignore that for now. It was trimming it with this. Is that the piece I'm after, or is it this bit? There we go. Yeah, that's the one. So it sort of has a bit of a border. And because the border is this hexagon shrunken down a bit with another one, they're all controlled by one peg here like this. So when it's all together, it looks like this. And they slide apart like that. So they do... They're offset. That's because the words go in there, so ignore that for now. But the pieces slide apart like that. So now I had a starting point, and even now there was a bit of trickery involved, because the pieces looked somewhat like this. Like it was the half thing with the original shrunken down a little bit, trimming it away like so it just sort of fit neatly over the top of it. Then it came for the words. I got to keep my second wish, which was making the actual letters a bit darker now. I've rescaled them all. Originally it was completely hand-drawn back in the day, so it was very cartoony, and that wasn't really working anymore. But I still wanted to have some mix of it, so I've taken the original letters and just gone in and skewed and scaled and just sort of made sure that they all had at least the same height, and with the original orange behind, creating that look there, which I think is okay. These are two sets of masks, banners that go out here and here. They follow along with the outside bracket bits. So when that's all together, it will create a mask that moves with the same timing as the other ones that can all be assembled together to look like this. So that means I can animate all the sliding and all of its components through one peg, which just reveals and hides like that. Well, two pegs, one for each side, whatever, be quiet. The second half of all the components is down here. This was trying to figure out how it should glow if it was to share uniformity with the main backing. There were a number of stages to this. The first was to get the orange masked out by itself. That was actually quite difficult. At first I just used a color override, but that just brings the entire orange slab. It came as just one big panel. So I had to do it the other way around. Isolate out the gray matter and then use that as a mask to cut away from the orange panel, leaving this. From there, it could have a series of glows applied to it, which by themselves look like that, and overlaid on top of everything looked like that. So I thought that was looking pretty cool, but now came the next question of what role will the old character play? If it's got this hexagon now sitting slap bang in the middle, I was thinking, oh, once it's revealed, can it animate away and the character takes its place? Would that seem out of place? Would it be off to the side? I'm not really sure. And I thought, hang on, well, because it's all sliding out of this shape, maybe for the first time I can have representation of the actual onion skin tool used in animation programs in here somewhere. So I made this shape. This was done by taking one edge of one of the hexagons and just duplicating it across a few times, paint bucketing it with inverting transparencies rather than fading out individually for each little one. I couldn't be bothered, so back and forth, and then mask that out with a gradient wash that looks like that, reveal this. After a few attempts to cross it all together, this was the result. It may have a few tweaks to go over time, in case some of the letters are getting a little bit washed out or whatever, but it seems like from here it would just be minor tweaking. When it animates and closes in, because it is made of separate sliced parts, there are seams around the edges. So to cheat this, I put an image switch at the very bottom, which transfers from this completely flat image of the hexagon to the entire contraption at the moment that it starts to open. And there we go, new onion skin logo. What do you think? Do you like it? Do you still prefer the old one? From here, it's all about putting together the main teaser trailer for everything that's coming up, still in my personal future, but of course, chronologically, this would all be said and done probably weeks ago from your perspective. Hopefully it's all sort of settled in now and I haven't completely butchered everything. So hope you enjoyed and or learned something. See you next time.